with demand expected to come back, the question remains, does this mean the economy is back on track?
Companies now, after experimenting with offshore in places like India, Philippines, and Poland, want to bring those jobs back.
We invest in the U.S. We're the biggest exporter in the country. In the cycle we're in right now, we're creating jobs.
From Radio America, it's Neil Asbury's Made in America, the show that explores American industry, large and small, and promotes American-made products everywhere. Put Neil Asbury's Made in America to work for you.
A very big welcome to you today. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. Hey, Rich, very, very exciting, very, very exciting. We have a new affiliate. WZAB 880 The Biz in Miami. Rich, we started there, right? And, we were very fortunate to have Radio America in Washington pick up our show, and now we're nationally syndicated, more than 80 stations around the country. The American Forces Network around the world carry our show, and now we're back home with WZAB 880 The Biz in Miami, man. That's so great.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited by it. I think it's terrific. Our good friends at home in Miami who have known us for so long. You know, it's been well over, 14 years, Neil, that we've been playing this game and doing this. And we're delighted to be back on our origin, so to speak, and to join more of the Salem group, because we've been on a lot of Salem stations around the country.
And the proud owners of WZAB in Miami, where now you can hear Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs. So, Rich, a big week, a very big week. News out that President Trump and President Xi from China are going to meet at the G20 meeting in Argentina. You know, we're going to talk about that in the next segment, what that might mean. But, hey, look, I really hope we can get this trade war sort of behind us, and now, everybody working together again and, building our country, building our economies. What do you think?
Well, I sincerely hope so. One of the most important things that we can do is work on the economy. I find it's a really good conversation to have, whereas 8 years ago, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2 years ago, we were saying, well, they're never coming back. The jobs aren't going to be here. Get used to the GDP that we've got. This is the new normal, and relating to the show that we're going to have today, you're not going to dig or drill your way out of this one with energy as it was. And we all know that was nonsense. And here we are in an environment that we're optimistic. We're looking forward. People are feeling good about themselves, their potential for the future, their children. And if only the rest of the media would carry that and we'd have a little bit less argumentation, you know what? We could really do great things. And we are doing great things.
Well, more on that in just a moment. But, you said it, drilling ourselves out of a problem. Well, the United States, was, once upon a time, energy resources were depleting and they were all going to run out. And what are we going to do? And boy, what a different world it is, with the technology and everything that's occurred, discovering deposits here in the United States that makes the United States actually an energy exporter. Who would have thought America becoming an energy exporter? Well, here we got a great guest going to lead us through a discussion on what that really means. Very proud to have with us Brigham McCown, who is a former senior executive at the United States Department of Transportation and the current CEO of Nouveau Consulting. Brigham, welcome to Made in America.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for having me on today, guys.
It's great because we got a great topic to talk about, and that's American energy independence. And that's really brought about by American ingenuity, and also a president who said we are going to responsibly bring our energy resources to the marketplace. I mean, what a concept, Brigham! What a concept!
Yeah, it's unbelievable. In fact, I think if you or I or any of us had said this 5-10 years ago, we would have been laughed off stage, because it's something that every president since Nixon, since the early 70s, has said, we want to become energy independent. And at some point it became a mouthpiece because it was just totally unrealistic, right? Well, the fact is it's not totally unrealistic. It's here. It's coming. And it's fantastic.
The Obama administration was saying, well, you're not going to dig your way, you're not going to drill your way, this is not going to work. The irony of it is the one sector in the United States that was doing great was energy. And then Obama turns around and tries to take credit for that because he was doing everything we can to, make the energy sector work. I mean, I just found it to be, the hyperbole was ridiculous.
So, Brigham, tell us a little bit about, what is going on in Texas right now. I mean, there's news reports this week. I'm getting all kinds of news reports. Texas will pass OPEC partners in oil production by 2023. That means that, this is amazing. I mean, there's other reports out that, the Permian Basin in Texas alone will be equal to any of the OPEC countries except for Saudi Arabia. And that's just one field. So what is going on in Texas? What has happened? Why are we in this remarkable position today?
Yeah, well, we're in this remarkable position because we have some realistic policies that have enabled us to go back. New technologies made about by hydraulic fracturing and other techniques that allow us to get at a lot more oil than we were able to produce in the past. And it's pretty simple. U.S. crude oil production is up 80% since 2005. And you were talking about imports. And, shockingly with that, net imports of crude oil are off by 70%. As a former military officer myself, I spent time in the sand, different places around the world. Why? Because we had to be there, because we needed that energy and we needed those strategic alliances. But what you're seeing right now is the U.S. is producing we're averaging just under 11 million barrels a day. And that's pretty amazing. And we'll be at 12 million barrels a day next year. And of all of that, the Permian right now is kicking in about 35 to 40% of that total, and it's going to continue to grow. And what do I mean by that? By the next 7 to 10 years, the Permian Basin alone could be producing over 7 million barrels a day. Contrast that with the Bakken, which is a big deal, but it's coming in at 1.2 million barrels a day.
Holy cow. How much is Saudi?
Saudi is producing somewhere around 8 to 9 a day right now.
Holy cow.
And
so
they
just
can
Permian
produce a little bit more, but yeah, we're producing more than Saudi Arabia. We're producing more than Russia.
Well, what's really great about this, and I guess the Obama administration just didn't understand that, as they didn't understand a lot of things about business, but the fact that we can produce this oil poses a dramatic threat, not just because of the OPEC scenario, but let's look beyond that and beyond those borders, and let's look at Russia. And let's look at what, by us being successful in becoming a net exporter of fossil fuels, here's a rhetorical question, what does that do to Russia?
Yeah, that does a couple things to Russia. Russia doesn't like that, right? Because they need American hard currency. They need hard currency from other people. They want Western Europe and Central Europe and their former Soviet satellite states to remain dependent on them for oil, because oil, that's black cash. That's what they need to keep not only their economy going, but to keep doing the type of things they've been doing, to keep waging those proxy wars in Ukraine and stalemate in Georgia, et cetera.
So this is going in the right direction, Neal, if we do this.
Very, very, very much so. But for the American consumer, Brigham, we still haven't seen maybe the result of this, or the fruit of this incredible resource, this blessing that our country has. Because of why? Because of the pipelines, and we just don't have the pipelines. I mean, there's been a whole lot of discussion under the Obama administration about the evils of pipelines and so on, and yet we're producing all this energy, but we're not seeing the benefit at the gas pump, right? We're not seeing it in our energy bills yet because we don't have the delivery system for it.
Well, yeah, no, that's true. We're seeing it incrementally. I mean, if you look at natural gas prices 10, 15 years ago, they're very low compared. They're a third of what they were. But you're right. On the crude oil side, we're not seeing quite as much reduction as we would like to see in the retail costs of gasoline and other supplies at the pump. That's due to a couple of reasons. Number one, we are all tied together. It is somewhat of a global economy, number one. And so we have to look at world energy demand. But number two, and this is where I come in as the former head of energy transportation for the federal government, we can't get our stuff effectively from point A to point B because of environmental opposition to pipelines, which, I want to throw out there right in the beginning, I regulated planes, trains, and automobiles. They're all safe, but nothing beats a pipeline for safety, for less carbon footprint, for efficiency. And yet we have people out there that have decided that if they can't get their agenda across by keeping products in the ground, they're sure as heck going to do everything they can to make it as difficult as possible to move those supplies to market.
Incredible. Hey, look, but it's looking good, man. This is a great story. It's a great story. It wasn't a great story not long ago, but boy, this is wonderful. And the American consumer, American businesses, American manufacturers, everyone is going to benefit. Our allies are going to benefit.
We are heading in the right direction. Now is the time just to keep the pedal down, and we're going to see the fruits of our labor.
Absolutely. Brigham, thanks for being on the show. Brigham McCown, former senior executive at the U.S. Department of Transportation and the current CEO of Nouveau Consulting. Thanks for being with us, Brigham. Coming up, Dr. Ruffman and I are going to have a discussion about many things. We're going to talk about President Trump's meeting with President Xi of China and Argentina, amongst many other things. You don't want to miss this.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffman. Hey, Rich, man, it's so good to know that America's energy resources are doing wonderful things and all the jobs they're creating. Imagine all the jobs, and these are really good-paying jobs, Rich. And if we were building better infrastructure to deliver our energy resources, imagine about all those jobs and the benefits that it would do for all Americans. You know, whether you're a family and you want to pay for your gas and you want to take vacations and do road trips, or your heating bills, or if you're a business and you want to make things. You know, if you want to make things, you know, you're going to have machinery and equipment and so forth to do that. All based around energy. So a great thing to see America becoming energy independent. I mean, we really could become energy independent in this country and just not worry about all these foreign places and getting involved with all of these crazy politics around the world.
Well, if you look at history and you understand where we've come from and what made us a great country, granted, certainly all the people and the opportunities that we had, and the bottom line is our Constitution made us a great country. But to be a great manufacturing country, an industrialized country, you have to have abundant energy, and you have to have an abundant source of inexpensive energy, and you have to have a stable source of inexpensive energy. We collect all that off. We check it off. We have every one of those. And through the industrial age in the late 1800s and certainly well into the 1900s, our economy grew as a result of the ability for us to manufacture what we needed using energy that were supplied right here from the United States. And so when we get to the point where now we're, 100 and some odd years later, we're back to where we were a long time ago with all this abundant energy. You know, we need that energy, Neal. You need that energy as a manufacturer, because your plants, your manufacturing plants, need to have that to produce the products. And you have to have it in a stable, affordable, in an on-demand basis. And you check that off again. So we're all in the right direction. Everyone benefits from that, whether it's going to be get your car going or to actually get the car. And it's a very exciting moment for us to see that we're moving in that direction. And if, in fact, that becomes part of the political structure in terms of dealing with Russia and some of the folks out there on our best friends, and we want to do a checkmate with them and leverage our energy, good Lord, we're in the right place. And Neal, this is, the irony of all ironies is that Trump saw this. Trump saw this. They said, oh, he's out of control. The point of the matter is he saw this, he knows this, and I have to believe this is all part of his game plan.
So, moving on to President Trump and China and tariffs and the trade war and so on, this past week we've had a huge drop in the stock markets, and that's something that President Trump was very proud about. All of this wealth that's been created through equity growth and pension funds, and just every ordinary average Americans benefiting from this great growth. A lot of people said, hey, look, this is the impact of the trade war. I mean, the markets took a major, major hit. What does that mean? I mean, could this, be the beginning of much more uncertainty in the public markets. And at the same time, there's a glimmer of hope here. I mean, a lot of people have picked up on this. President Trump to meet with President Xi at the G20 meeting in Argentina the end of November. So that's still quite a long way away. Maybe by that time, cooler heads will prevail. Yes, President Xi has to come with something really concrete here. I mean, they have to make a move. The Chinese have to make a move. But if they do make a move, they're going to do it. They're going to do it quietly. The Chinese, they're not, it's kind of behind the scenes. They're not going to be, using the press to communicate with the American government. They're going to deliver something. Let's hope it's enough. And let's also hope that President Trump, will listen and will, try to find a way to get a deal together. What say you?
Well, I think the magic word is deal, and I think there will be a deal, and I think the whole rationale behind everything that's been going on is to create the deal and create the environment to get that deal. If you think about it, and we've talked about it, and I think this is an important topic for people to think about, this renegotiation of NAFTA to the U.S. Mexico-Canadian alliance or a trade alliance, trade pact, really does more than just say, okay, now we can handle cars better in the United States, can handle cars better with Canada, we can do other products. There's a clause in there that makes it very, very clear that neither Canada or Mexico can do deals with third-party countries without the approval of the United States.
In just a couple of moments, Rich, talk to us about the Federal Reserve. I mean, this is incredible. The Federal Reserve has been increasing interest rates, and that's been driving President Trump nuts. And I got to tell you, as a manufacturer, as someone who is very acquisitive, buying companies and so forth, seeing the interest rates, at LIBOR at nearly 2% right now. I mean, it was down to nearly zero not long ago. So, I mean, this is a huge move. And President Trump doesn't feel that the Federal Reserve is doing the right thing. And he said, look, you're increasing interest rates too fast. And you should be rolling them back. You should not be increasing them at this time. But American presidents typically haven't done that. They appoint the head of the Federal Reserve and then they leave him alone. But that's not President Trump.
Well, real quick, and one, I agree with everything you're saying to make that sharp and clear. But number two, the other presidents were part of the infrastructure in Washington. Trump is not. So therefore, you have a different dynamic to the relationship between the Federal Reserve and Trump. And beyond that, Trump says what he's thinking.
Hey, Rich, very good. Great things going on. Great discussions. But right now, we need to go with Vince Patton. He's going to be joining us right now. Former Master Chief Petty Officer of the U.S. Coast Guard. He's now with New Day USA. And they're all about hiring vets and getting our underemployed and unemployed vets into the workforce. I mean, a great thing. He's going to be with us just in a moment. You don't want to miss this. Stay with us.
Made in America.
Sharply higher at the open, stocks continued to perform well over the course of the day Tuesday.
And I think that bodes well here over the next couple of years for having bigger demands coming to this country.
Now, more of Neal Asbury's Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Ruffin. Rich, one of my most proud moments, in broadcasting or for anything really is when the American Forces Network took on our show. What an amazing thing. What an amazing thing for that to happen. And here we are right now with Vince Patton, who's he's a Master Chief Petty Officer retired. I just want to make sure I get that right. He's now Senior Vice President of New Day USA. And he's joining us right now. Vince, welcome to Made in America.
Well, good afternoon or good morning, as the case may be, wherever you are. But hello, everybody.
Well, thanks for being on the show. It's really great, and getting our vets into the workforce. We often do segments on this, and it's something that we're very proud of, and talking about this all the time, and bringing this message to American business owners. Some incredible skills. So tell us, what is New Day USA, and what is your work, and what can we do better?
Well, first of all, New Day USA, we're a financial mortgage company that caters exclusively to veterans, primarily both with purchasing a new home as well as refinancing on a mortgage and so forth. But we focus toward the veteran community, and our efforts to that is really first and foremost is helping veterans, particularly many for the first time getting into a home of their own, as well as for many veterans who own homes, give them an opportunity to get some extra cash to be able to do some upgrades to their homes or things that they needed to get them better. So our focus is solely with working with the veteran population.
We've had this conversation for a while. I think it makes all the sense of the world. One of the things that drives me crazy is that we have these wonderful men and women getting into the armed forces, doing jobs that are so technical that are, the military right now is a very technical environment, which is what makes us so good. Without wonderful people, it means nothing. But we have these terrific, very well-educated, trained people doing these very high-level technical functions on all sorts of different projects. And then when they get out, we should be able to take advantage and work with these people. I think it makes so much sense to hire a vet. If you're looking for somebody with experience and somebody who knows how, a can-do person, Neal, someone who knows they must finish the job and finish it right, because that's the military way. I can't imagine a better person to go to the top of the list when you're interviewing.
A lot of discipline there, too. A lot of discipline, and which is very important in the workforce is, getting there on time and putting in the hours and just doing the common sense type of thing. I mean, skills that the U.S. military is really great at teaching. So, Vince, what is the unemployment rate? I mean, this economy, a lot of jobs, we hear a lot about the jobs and, the unemployment rate and, getting people back working again. So for our veterans, what has this economy meant? How have we made progress? I mean, are our veterans, at the front of the line right now? I mean, are they doing better than the general population? Where do they stand?
Many of them are working, but they're not necessarily working in skill levels that they really are qualified to do. Many people are getting into jobs because they're getting the jobs that they can get. But I see this still as an underemployment situation, and that we do have a lot of folks who served in the military, served in very highly technical types of field. And that said is that infantrymen today, if you were to look at a picture of an Army or Marine Corps infantryman and see how what they carry and what they have compared to a World War II, Korea era, or Vietnam era, vastly different, because the infantryman of today, it has to be highly technical with the information that they have to do their particular job. So that still translates to the civilian market, that you're getting someone that has the technical expertise and know-how, not to mention of those other things that Rich pointed out about the attention to detail, the willingness of coming to work on time and so forth. You add all of that together, you have people that truly are the best for America's workforce.
It's absolutely incredible. Are there any sort of skills that you just mentioned the technical skills, but what's in the most high demand? I mean, if you're an American veteran right now and you're listening to us talk, and you don't quite got the right job right now, so what could they be doing about that? What should they be doing about that? How should they be maybe perfecting getting this message out, that the skills that they do have, and get them to the marketplace to where they do get that dream job?
That's a good question, because one of the things that I've been very critical on, and I've been retired from the U.S. Coast Guard for 16 years now, and I think, but I will say, from the time that I retired and the transition assistance that I had gone through back then as compared to today is much better. But still, it is lacking with giving those people who are getting out of service, as well as those who are already out of service, to be able to effectively translate what their training, what their occupational specialty that they have, translate to civilian terms. And there are some great tools that are on the web that they can easily use right now, which is the acenet.edu, ACENET.edu. Why that website? Because it has the military guide that gives all of the evaluation of educational experiences in the armed services. This is a great tool for our veterans that they can use when they're doing their resumes, that better describes the military ease of the things that they do to civilian terms. And I think that is very helpful for them as they do their job search.
Hey, Vince, hey, thanks for being on the show. I mean, this is a great service that you're doing. Vince Patton, Master Chief Petty Officer of the U.S. Coast Guard, retired, now Senior Vice President for New Day USA, helping our veterans find jobs. I mean, what a wonderful calling. Thanks for being on the show, Vince.
Well, thank you for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
Coming up, we have Brian Darling joining us. He's the president and founder of Liberty Government Affairs. He's the former senior communications director and counsel for Senator Rand Paul, a very, very famous senator doing great work for our country. He's going to join us just in a moment talking about the tax cuts and what they mean for our small businesses.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Hey, Rich, we got a wonderful guest coming on. Gentleman, he's worked with a number of our senators on Capitol Hill as part of their staff, as counsel to them, and he's got an organization right now, Liberty Government Affairs, and he's bringing awareness to issues about liberty and freedom. And we're all about economic freedom here on Made in America. That's the best way to get our entrepreneurs doing what they do best, that American spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, generating and creating jobs and wealth and prosperity for all Americans. He's right with us on this. Brian Darling, who's the president and founder of Liberty Government Affairs, former senior communications director and counsel for Senator Rand Paul and many of our senators he's worked together with, and also formerly at the Heritage Foundation, a great organization whose members are often on our radio show. A great organization, great ideas, a great think tank. Brian, welcome to Made in America.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Hey, there's a number of things here that I want to get to, and in a little bit of time that we have. But I want to talk about cryptocurrency. I mean, I see that all over the place, and it's kind of like my eyes glaze over, and I don't really know how to kind of size this thing up. So why is cryptocurrency good or bad for our economy, for our entrepreneurs, for our small businesses? Well, what would that do to help create jobs in this country? That's what we're all about here at Made in America.
Well, the bottom line is it would make transactions streamlined, and it's basically a peer-to-peer technology that people use to do transactions, cutting out the middleman, that cuts out credit card companies, cuts out the banks, and it allows individuals to have direct commerce with other individuals using these so-called digital currencies, cryptocurrencies. It's a bit complicated on how to explain it, but the easy way to explain it is it's just peer-to-peer technology where an individual will have an account, they'll have a wallet in their computer, and they can use that wallet to spend money on whatever they want. Now, right now, a lot of companies are not accepting cryptocurrency. Some do, but for the most part, it's just a nascent technology we're just on the cutting edge of.
But who issues the currency? I mean, like if you got a $100 bill, it's the federal government, it's the American government who's issuing it, who's supporting that, who's saying that it's worth something. Who says that? Who issues cryptocurrency?
Well, it's companies. So it's individuals that set up a company. They'll issue something called a token, and basically they'll roll out their currency and say they have 1,000 units of currency, and that's basically what they roll out. And the free market determines how much that's worth, and also the confidence that individuals have in this company and individuals running the company. It doesn't have any inherent value at all. It has only the value that the market will bear, and it's a great way to compete with the fiat currency, the actual currency that we walk around with on a day-to-day basis. And it's going to create competition whereby you have the private sector basically printing their own money in a way that allows for alternative currencies to flourish, and will create a situation where it's just going to make it so much easier to do transactions. I mean, you see all the technology advances, PayPal, which a lot of people use, and a lot of the alternative ways that people are using to pay bills and to go into a store. They have an Apple Pay, they use their phone to pay bills. Well, we're getting to the next step where these cryptocurrencies will be common and people will use them.
Hey, Rich, I mean, do you have your mind? Rich, have you got your mind around this yet?
Yeah, I do actually, and it is a confusion.
I'm gonna. You know, I just been inspired. I'm gonna issue $1 million worth of legacy currency.
I think you should. I'm right now, as you're writing, I have my mimeograph machine in the office here, which I have a holdback because I used to like sniffing them in high school and college. But we're cranking out our currencies. Let me ask you a question. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but when you listen to this, it's kind of falling into the 21st century concept of globalization and borderless environments. Because a currency, by nature of its definition, from a country defines itself by virtue of that country, which defines itself by its borders. At least that's the way it used to be when I went to school. But when you deal with a cryptocurrency, it really transcends borders, doesn't it? It really kind of fits into where a certain segment of the globalists really want us to go.
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, it really does. And it makes it just so much easier to conduct transactions without worrying about, what you're referring to. I mean, look at the U.S. dollar. I mean, the U.S. dollar is controlled by the Fed. We have a controversy right now where interest rates keep going up, and the president doesn't like that, restricting the money supply. I think most Americans are not comfortable with the idea of the Fed having so much control over our economy, the fact that they can manipulate the money supply and basically change the nature of our economy and change growth. And, that's a problem. Well, if you have peer-to-peer, you don't have government control of the money supply. It's, much like if we were to go to a gold standard, which would be probably a great idea. I don't think it's in the cards, but, some of these currencies are considering backing themselves with gold. I mean, it really is a new frontier of transacting business that hopefully will take hold, and a lot of people will use it once confidence goes up. As you refer to the fact that most Americans don't understand this, and that's true. I mean, most Americans, if you talk about this idea, they don't like it because they don't understand it. But it's early. It's very early. I mean, it really, other than Bitcoin, I don't think most people could name any other cryptocurrencies, but there are thousands, maybe tens of thousands of these currencies out there trying to get a foothold and trying to be used by, average people.
Hey, Brian, unfortunately, we're out of time, but, we got to get you back. In fact, our producer is going to be reaching out to you because this is a very fascinating topic, Like you say, people don't understand it, so they're scared of it, and I'm one of them. I have no idea. But I want to learn. And you could talk to us about a lot of things. I'd like to get your ideas about tax cuts and small businesses and a lot of other things that's happening in our crazy capital that you're so plugged into. So please come back and join us. Brian Darling, who's the president and founder of Liberty Government Affairs, a real insider on Capitol Hill, and he will be back with us real soon. Hey, Brian, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Coming up, Dr. Rothman and I going to have some final thoughts for the day. Can you believe that our venture is coming to an end here? But you don't want to miss this last segment. It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be exciting. You just want to stick around.
Made in America.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neal Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Hey, Rich, what a show today. It's amazing. I mean, time just flies. I mean, a wonderful story about the American energy industry and specifically what's happening down in Texas, but really it's happening across America, this energy renaissance that we're going through in our country. Absolutely spectacular. What it means for our economy, what it means for our future, what it means for our jobs, and what it means geopolitically in untangling America from a lot of places in the world that these energy resources exist are not necessarily our friends. And it just seems every time we get involved with these places, no good comes out of it. So why are not more Americans saying, forget foreign energy, let's be energy independent, let's do it here in America, let's create the jobs, and let's get out of all these conflicts in the world? It seems like a pretty good bargain to me, Rich.
It is a good bargain, and it's the way we really should have been going a long time ago. I do find it fascinating how Mr. Trump, President Trump, plays chess, because that's exactly what he's been doing with the energy industry in the United States and our allies and our foes across the world. And that is that if, in fact, we can get the energy sector doing even better or making us an export of energy, that poses a threat to a number of areas. One, it stabilizes, as we talked about on the show, the fact that we can have our own supply of energy that's less expensive, less subject to the vagaries of politics in the Mideast and so forth. That's a goodie for us. That's just great. Number two, it creates tremendous jobs in the United States. As we all know, the energy industry has high-paying technological jobs. And they're not the jobs that were being created in the Obama administration, so you could work on Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays at Wendy's, and then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday you could be at Burger King. But the reality of the thing is that it also poses a threat to Russia and to and even Iran if we eliminate their ability to get dollars as petrodollars, black oil dollars, into their currencies, which they desperately need. That's the one area that Russia has done well over the last 20 years was the energy sector. And that is why the president, when he was at the NATO at the meeting in Europe and in Canada, the G7 was like stunned with Angela Merkel saying, well, wait a minute. You want us to work with NATO. You want us to support you. At the same time, NATO and Germany in particular is cutting the $75 billion deal with Russia. Well, wait a minute. For what? Well, for energy. Well, God's sakes, why don't you create and work with us the energy out of the United States? And it hurts the people that NATO is supposed to be protecting you from. I mean, that's the most ridiculous. That's an oxymoron. It just doesn't make sense. So when you see what's happening now in this big chess game that the president's playing, he lines up American fossil fuels. He expands it dramatically. He gives us the opportunity to be a net exporter of energy. He uses that next exporting to stabilize our economy with all the things we just talked about, and at the same time to hurt the foes of the United States. And it gives them leverage to cut deals. This is brilliant. Anybody who sits back and says, oh, my God, Putin's got him, and collusion and so forth, has no idea what they're talking about. And they have to stop listening to Soros's back organizations because they're getting the false story. The true story is there's brilliance in all of this. And we're all going to benefit by this, including, by the way, the president also put out a note this week saying that, well, you know what, we're going to work with the EPA, we're going to change the rules, change the regs, we're going to get more ethanol made from corn. We don't have time to talk about it. Corn's not the best thing to use, but also natural gas ethanol. And we're going to increase ethanol into our gas system, the petroleum system. We don't have to bring in oil from OPEC, and we can be totally self-sufficient, and we are, insular to the rest of the world. What a great idea to do that. And by the way, it does not hurt the American farmers too much either. It helps them dramatically, Neil.
It's interesting. President Trump brought that up at a rally this week, and actually in Iowa. I'm sure that it went over very well. And I guess it was the summer months that ethanol, the use of ethanol in gasoline was reduced because it would create smog and very high humid conditions. And when the humidity's high, the temperature's high, I guess ethanol would be a bit of a problem. At least that's what the Obama administration thought. And so President Trump said, hey, wait a second, we don't believe that. We're going to help our farmers, and we're going to allow ethanol to be used during the summer months. And therefore, the farmers in Iowa, I'm sure Kansas, Nebraska, that whole part of the country,
they love it,
which is very important. Well, Rich, just once again, I want to welcome the listeners at WZAB 880 The Biz in Miami, who's now listening to our shows. And it's really wonderful to have them back. That's where we all started. And now we're back family again. So that's great. But, Rich, we're out of time, unfortunately. But we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.